Welcome to another episode of One of Us Knows What They're Talking About, and the other one is you. I'm Lorie Burch, your host. Join us as we discuss and unpack wills, trusts, estate planning, and probate law in a way that's actually informative, interesting, and, well, hopefully entertaining. Because if you don't have a will, the state of Texas has one for you. Let's dive in. So today's topic is something that really spans the whole spectrum of life. This is not purely limited to legal planning, estate planning, to Texas or anything. It is a life philosophy. And that is make the decision and the details will fall into place. And for those of you who have siblings, you know how much the following pains me to say, but this was a brilliant piece of advice from my sister.
Granted, your sister's pretty great.
My sister's pretty great. My sister is not pretty great. She's like uber great. She's like great on steroids.
I'm a Julie
She makes
stan.
up for all my dorky brothers. No, I'm kidding. I love my brothers, but they're brothers. And for those who have brothers, you know exactly what I'm saying right now.
My brothers.
No, but I do have a pretty great sister, and something that I do like to point out because it has come to my attention in the last few years of our lives that we're both full-fledged adults that not everybody knows who's older, and that's particularly offensive because she is 7 years older than me. And I think I made you pretty well, frankly. But I don't know, is it because she's so much shorter than me that people are like so much, or because I'm so mature
You're
that
so
people are
mature.
like,
Actually, Luke does have this thing where even to this day, he's like, if they're taller than me, they're older than me. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why people think that about you and Julie.
yeah, I don't know. It's rough. But
But also, there are people
yeah,
Luke is like in his 20s. He's not.
yeah. No. So anyway, so I am very, very close to my sister. She's always been there for me, almost as a second mom, uh, or an additional mom. I don't know. My kids have 2 moms, some of them 3. That's sidebar. Anyway, um,
I don't know that you want to
so
forge that relationship with your sister.
yeah, no. No, but
Just
you know,
putting it
some of
out
you may
there.
have older siblings where they basically have served as almost a second
Yeah.
parent for you. And um, my sister Julie is definitely in that category, but also just my best friend in the world. My first best friend. Oh, she was my first best friend.
She was your
Aw.
first best friend.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So I was going through a particularly difficult time. This was during my first year of law school. So, oh, how do I even explain all the places I've been? Isn't that the Dr. Seuss book that people get? All the places you'll
Other
go?
places you'll go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the places I've been. So we were originally from California, and then we got transferred to Indonesia, but it was just me and the next youngest sibling, a brother. So Julie, because again, so much older than me, was already out of the house. And so lived in Indonesia for 2 years for 8th and 9th grade, and then got transferred. And then I was the sole person out of 6 to 7 or more, depending on how many of my siblings you want to count when you look through the blended family that my parents have provided. But anyway,
I mean,
anyway,
look at it. They've
so
provided
yeah, so Texas, and then which was, I tell people that it was more of a culture shock going from Indonesia to Texas than it was from California to Indonesia. But
That's
came to Texas, and then one of my brothers and my sister, only sister, moved from California to Texas because why wouldn't they? They wanted to be by me. And so they were here in Texas. And then I pretty much have almost always wanted to be a lawyer. And so when I decided that it was time for law school, I was going to venture outside of Texas. And so I went to Washington, D.C. I had done a special semester my junior year of college. I went to college at Trinity University, the greatest university where Poppy and Natalie will both go. Uh, maybe, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
But I mean, San
I
Antonio
can't wait.
alone is a reason to go to Trinity. Great city, great school. And I did do a special semester in DC at American University. It was a justice semester, fell in love with it, wanted to go to law school. And I'm like, what, where else would you go to law school but Washington, DC? Right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
So, as much as I loved my college experience, I moved halfway across the country away from my family, those, everything that I was familiar with, and I was completely on my own. I lived in this shoebox apartment off Mass Avenue at Scott Circle. And I mean, it really was like it was a studio apartment. So it was like one room. And it had this, I called it wall O appliances. So it had like a mini fridge. It had a burner that had like two burners on it and a microwave. And but there was no separation of the kitchen. It was just kind of there. And so, I mean, I had it all set up, but it had a huge bathroom. It's probably the size of my bathroom now.
Guys,
It's like a huge
really?
bathroom.
Interesting.
Yes. And of course, every single time I was on the phone with my mom, there were sirens. And so she was always like scared. And I told her, I was like, oh,
Oh
it's just a
gosh.
coincidence. That's whenever I'm on the phone with you. But that was a lie. There's just always
There's just
sirens
always
in DC.
sirens.
The cool thing about this apartment is it had a little convenience store down in the basement.
Ooh.
And it was so cool, just like taking the elevator down and you go and get ice cream and wine. And I mean, other sundries. Those were just two examples.
I don't know that I've ever wanted to mix ice cream and wine. Like, I don't think that'd make a good like a wine float is not where my brain goes.
It works. Anyway, I didn't have my car.
Good to know.
I think parking was like another $300 a month. Now this was
Jeez.
in like 1998. So it's probably what would that be today? I don't even know. So, and this is before like Ubers and stuff. There's like taxis. And so, no lie, the closest grocery store was Safeway, but it was called the Soviet Safeway. And it's because like they would have like one item of everything and it was long lines. And so I'd walk like 20 minutes to the Soviet Safeway, do my grocery shopping, and then I'd walk back with like 8 bags per hand.
Oh,
Nice.
we're a
No,
one-trip family.
that's how I am.
By
Yeah.
the way, Lori, you said $300?
Yeah, it's probably something like that for parking.
That's 586
Sounds
and
right.
99 cents in 2025.
And I bet it's even more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It
Oh
is,
yeah.
though, how I
No.
learned how to spell Massachusetts because I lived on Massachusetts Avenue. It's not an easy one to spell.
I learned how to spell it
There's
because of PBS.
You do it
basically
there.
all you do is double every consonant. Just double it. When in doubt, double it because you're probably right. But anyway, felt very isolated and disillusioned pretty much from day one, and some of this was kind of my own doing, I guess, because I I'm going to say I'm different now. I'm not, but I've learned more coping skills now to
I think
overcome
that's the
my
thing. It's the
extreme
coping
social
skill.
anxiety and introversion. But I truly wanted to go to law school to make a difference, be a do-gooder. One reason why I wanted to do law school in DC is because of all the civil rights and public interest law and all of that. And when I found myself plopped down with other law students who I am convinced that law students are, there's always exceptions, but by and large are like the worst human beings.
Uh,
They are completely insufferable because they have the egos of lawyers, but none of the credentials.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I just did not connect at all. It was just everything was about the biggest, most prestigious firms that they wanted to go to. Um, And I mean, it was big. I went to a small school on purpose because my high school was so large. And so Trinity was very hands on. You got to really know your professors, maybe 12 to 15 students per class when I was there. And I mean, these are like these big, huge lecture halls. And it's soul sucking. I remember my civil procedure professor had said, we grade on a curve. It's not fair. If I'm only allowed to give 20 A's, but I read 30 exams that should be an A, that means 10 of the A's have to be kicked to B's, which means the 20 B's I can give have to be, and so on and so forth. He's like, it's completely unfair. Welcome to law school.
Woo.
Ooh.
Right on.
And then he said, but what do you call the person who graduates last in their class in law school? A
Law school
lawyer.
graduate.
Mhm.
A lawyer.
I'm being pedantic.
So anyway, that was my introduction to that. So it was just I was alone. My family was far away. I did have a couple friends there who were there from that semester I had spent, but I did not seek out any like-minded people. That's on me. But I didn't. To this day, I do not have any connection to anybody from law school. Um, and it was just very sad. It was very sad. And I'm like, what am I doing? I also am a little bit younger because of when I start. My birthday's late November, and when I started kindergarten, so in California at 4 years old, and so started college at 17, and so 21 being in life. It just felt like everybody was older, and just really all of that. And then this is actually a much better story, but I'm going to save it for another time. But it's also that first semester of law school when I came out to myself. Like I really had no idea. Now, in hindsight, I could have probably put some pieces together, but I really didn't. It's. Do you want me to tell you the story? Like, I don't want to make this. Like, do we have time for this, Sarah?
I'm just trying to figure out where
Yeah.
this is going.
Yeah, I need to know more. We
Okay.
all do.
Where's this going?
So, do you all know when National Coming Out Day is?
Yes.
Well, when is it? Now you walked yourself into that.
October 11th.
Oh, Sarah, look at you go. Okay, yes. So, a friend that I had who was going to Georgetown Law School, who had gone to Stanford for undergrad, and we were roommates in when we did that special semester at American. It was, I think, the year after the WNBA started. And so there was this player for the LA Sparks who I loved named Jamila Weidman. And so I had like these big, like she had promoted for Nike and everything. And so I had these like big Jamila Weidman posters up in my dorm room. And then when I moved to law school, up in my little, four corner apartment. And so I was wearing a Jamila Weidman jersey, and Jamila Weidman went to Stanford. So fast forward to October 11th, it's just a coincidence. And I'm meeting my friend for Taste of DC. And so I show up and I meet her, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's a Jamila Weidman jersey. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, I went to undergrad with her, and she like elbows me. She's like, she'd like you. And I'm like, what? She's like, oh, she's a lesbian. And then like, she's like, do you want to get food over here? And like, blah, blah, blah. Like, just like, that was it. And like, I went through the rest of that afternoon, like going, eating food and everything like that. But on my walk back, because remember, I didn't have my car. So like everything was like a 20, 30, 40-minute walk. I remember walking back from that, playing that over and over in my head, and then sitting down, getting to my apartment and sitting down in these chairs and looking up at the huge giant posters of this basketball player who I really admired, right? But I'm like, she's a lesbian? And it was the first lesbian. See, you all don't know what this is like because there's so many role models now.
Mm-hmm.
So many role models. This was like right after Ellen came out. Like there were not. And so I'm looking at her, and it was someone for the first time I could identify with. And I'm like, that's what I am. Like, that's it. And that's truly how that 100% factual how that happened. And at first, it was like this huge relief because it's like, gosh, like a lot of things make sense now. But then it like the reality of it all started crashing in and a lot more to that. Like, how do I tell my family? What does that mean for my faith? What does that mean for my life? All of that. But anyway, you have to understand that that's the cloud of turmoil I'm going under, um, or that I'm under during this first year of law school, where I already feel isolated, away from my family, all of these things. So all of this conspires to the fact that I'm younger than a lot of people. I've always been go go go. Went to a great college, graduated cum laude, which I didn't even know what that meant at the graduation, and then I found out. All these things. I'm at the George Washington University School of Law. And I remember talking to my sister right before the spring semester, my first year was going to end. And I'm like, I need a break. Like, I just wish I could take a break. And she said to me, well, why don't you? And it like infuriated me that I had a summer internship set up. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And she's like, why don't you take a break? I'm like, Julie, I can't do that. I mean, I'm just about to finish my first year of law school. I live out here in DC. I have a lease on my apartment. I have an internship at the Office for Civil Rights. Like, I've got all this stuff set up. How could I possibly do that? She's like, Lorie, those are details. She said, make the decision and the details will fall into place. 100%. There is no embellishment of this story. And so I remember taking out a sheet of paper and I'm like, I need a break. I need a break. So what do I need to do to have the break? There was, what do I do about school? What do I do about my internship? What do I do about my apartment? What do I do about moving? All of that. And one by one, reached out. I will always appreciate George Washington University School, the George Washington University School of Law, because they're like, well, what that is called is a leave of absence. And you just take the year off, and then no harm, no foul. All student loans and all of that get paused. And then you come back and you start your second year a year later. They're like, that's all it is. So check. I go down to my apartment, talk about breaking the lease and this, that, and the other. Check. Reach out to my internship, where if you ever watched the movie Sliding Doors, I do wonder what my life would have turned out like if I had stuck around and had that internship at the Office of Civil Rights. But anyway, they were very gracious. I'm sure there was a lot of snot-nosed law school punks that wanted to have that internship. And I just did. And, next thing I know, Julie's coming out. We rent a U-Haul and I moved back to Texas for a year to be with my family, to do therapy. Ended up getting a part-time job at this law firm. And the funny thing is it was just to make some money. And the attorney that I was assigned to, he's like, hey, can you pull these cases? And I looked at it, and they have, when you pull cases, they have a subject heading and it said civil rights. And I'm like, what? So I go to him and I'm like, this is the law I'm interested in. And his face lit up. He's like, I took this pro bono case for the ACLU with these families in Forney, Texas, who have been denied for philosophical exemptions for required uniforms in public school. He's like, would you help me with it? So that whole year I spent driving out to Forney, meeting with these families. They were amazing. He took me under his wing, and I got to do depositions and do this and that. And it was just so great. Really got to spend time with my family. And then when I was ready to go back to law school, I found another apartment, and I decided I don't care what sort of classes they tell you to take, like taxation and secured transactions. Screw all of that. I'll pass the bar. I'll figure it out. But I'm going to take courses that I'm interested in. So I signed up for civil rights legislation. I signed up for honest to God critical race theory. This is before it got usurped into some political football. It's actually a lot more controversial than people make it even realize that it is, but in a different way. But I took that. I took women in the law. all of these different things. And um, it just really, I really think a lot of us, my point is that I think a lot of us get bogged down into all the details of things that have to happen, and we never make the decision of what it is. And this is something that I think in the last year, maybe Sarah, I wrote the blog
Yeah.
about this, because I started thinking about when people are, I mean, again, it's really life advice. Thank you, Julie Burch. It's really life advice. But so many people, we talk about this all the time. 70+% of people don't have any sort of will, trust, no plan. And then they call firms like ours because you don't think you need an attorney to do this planning, but you have to have an attorney when someone's died to sort through this stuff. 99% of the time, you're going to have an attorney to help you navigate probate or transfer a title of a home or something like that. And they're devastated. They, even if everything works out, the default laws work out the way that they want, the hoops and the time delay and the expense to do that. Then the crazy default laws that are at play that shock people of, you mean my stepkids get my house that I shared with my spouse and not me, and all of these things. And over 70% of people are in this boat. And look, we're going on 20 years. We've had thousands and thousands and thousands of conversations with people. That's insane to think about. But we may be even close to 10,000 collectively conversations that we've had with people. And a sense of urgency or procrastination sits in, or other priorities pop up. And it's just, there's so many, I'll say, excuses that people will make. And most all of them are details. The decision is, do you want to get this done? Period. If you're going to be like, well, I don't know who's going to be the guardian of my kids. Well, what if I move? Well, those are all details. I mean, I love it when we're meeting with people. They're like, okay, well, I've got to talk to my kids about which one of them want to be trustee and everything like that. And it's like, why are you delaying this process for that conversation? Is that going to decide whether you want to do it or not? Is that a decision? If your kids are like, well, no, I don't want to do this, or yeah, okay, I'll be the first in line, or yeah, we can do it together. Okay, well, yep, I want to do it. And the way many firms work, ours included, is that the first point is just to decide, make the decision. This is important enough. My family is important enough. Now is always the time to get it done. I'm going to get it done. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the information, but let's get started. And most firms like ours work through it. It's not like we go and type it up and do wills while you wait, although we have done that in emergency situations. But it's not like we go and type it up and be like, all right, here, sign it. Here's your finalized plan. Can't ever make changes. It's locked in, set in stone. It's not like that. It's where you're like, okay, I want to do this. Tell me the information I start to do, commit to it. And if anything, even though I think we're a lot more than this, I know we're a lot more than this. At the minimum, going to a qualified law firm, you've got an accountability partner, not only to make sure that you're going to get this started, but to help you work through the details after you made the decision to get this started, and then to get it signed so it's legally enforceable and it'll work. Now, we're a lot more than an accountability partner, but that is a huge piece of what it is with qualified law firms to help get this done. And far too many people are allowing these details to get in the way of making the decision of getting this done. Anything that you put into place can be updated, changed, tweaked, adjusted as your mind or life changes. But anything is better than the nothing you have now.
Dang.
I felt Sarah was going to say something.
No, it's
So,
just inspirational.
yeah.
Is it one
So
of
I'm
those
going to
things
do,
that I've heard you do these things like so many times? Whenever you're done, I'm like,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's typical Lorie. And then Sarah's
Yeah.
still being really inspired.
I know, it's great.
Never
That's why I
lose
keep
that,
you around,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Don't become me.
Never lose that, Sarah.
Please don't.
Never lose that, Sarah. So in that vein, before you all do whatever you're going to do with the decisions versus details topic. And feel free to ad lib now that you've heard me go through this, or interject other things. We can do that. We can be real with each other. All right.
Okay.
But I do have a quiz on, is this a decision or is this a detail? You ready?
Yep.
Anybody can answer, which will mean none of you will. It'll be
Okay.
just like our Burch Law meetings.
Oh.
Blank stares. Anyway, all right. Is this a decision or a detail? Number one, getting a will.
Decision.
Decision.
Decision. Okay, this is a good one, and I'm open to there being gray areas, but there aren't. But I'm open-minded enough to let you all think there are. All right, getting a will versus getting a living trust.
Detail.
Detail.
Yeah.
You need to
How is
get
that a
started
detail?
someplace.
How do we start if we don't know whether they're going to want a will or a trust?
With Burch Law, all you have to do, you come in.
Commercial
You will
time.
know that you need something in place, right?
Right.
Like, we're going to tell you, hey, you need to get something in place. If you're sitting here on the bench, on the fence, being like, well, where should I go with it? We're going to tell you, just get started. And then if later it seems like you are going to be better served with this, you can always upgrade. So I think that is a detail, because
That's
you
fair.
can always update that later.
You said there's no
That's
gray
fair.
area. This could be one.
Well, I said, but no, I said that because I'm like, there's always, the law loves nothing if it doesn't love nuance.
Yeah.
So yes, from a mechanical, what agreement and fee structure do we use with you? That is a decision. But if it's something that people are truly hung up, that the only other option is to not do anything, then exactly what Cynthia is saying, then start with the will. It's better than the nothing you have now, and you can always upgrade to a trust.
Sam,
Okay.
you know I love a secret third option every single
True.
time. I will go for the
Yeah.
option not presented.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking to the people that you might want to name as medical decisions, be your trustee, executor, all that, talking to them. Because this is something where, well, I need to talk to them first before I move forward. Is that a decision or a detail?
Detail.
Yeah.
New
Detail.
detail.
100% detail. Say I could actually flip these because one leads to the other, but we'll do it in this order. Who you want to name? Like, gosh, I don't. Maybe my sister, maybe my best friend. I got to think through that. Is that a decision or a detail?
Detail.
Detail.
I think it's a detail.
Okay. How you want your assets to be distributed? Like, I've got a home, I've got a bank account. Who do I want to divide this up to, or who do I want to give it to? Is that a decision or a detail?
Detail.
Detail.
Yeah.
Okay. Who will take care of your kids? Who's the guardian of your kids? Is that a decision or a detail?
It's a detail.
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 Because if you aren't sure of it, does that mean you're not going to do it? Or is the decision still, I need to get this done? That's a detail
No.
I'll figure out.
It's
Right?
a detail you can
That's
figure
what
out
we're getting
later.
at. Okay. Do I have enough money to get this done the right way, meaning with a qualified law firm? Is that a decision? Do I have enough money to get this done the right way? Or is that a detail?
That's a detail because we'll work with you,
Yeah.
but also we will recommend things. That's not something that should stop you.
Exactly.
Also, how much are you
Exactly.
willing to
And
spend
then
on other things?
exactly. And then take that a step further, Cynthia. If they use not having enough money, air quote, or if you're watching this, literal quotes. Well, it's still air quotes. Right.
It's still air
Anyway,
quotes, yeah.
if you decide not to do this, if you make the decision not to do this because you don't perceive that you have enough money to do it the right way, what if something happens in the meantime?
You sure as
The
heck don't have
question
money
is,
to do that.
is there enough money to pay 3 to 4 times the amount of money for the state of Texas to decide all of those decisions for you, when most of them will not be the ones you would have made for yourself? Here's another one that we could spend more time on, but we won't. Is this a decision or a detail? Getting all your asset information together, putting it all in one place. What are all my bank accounts, life insurance, this, that, and the other? Is that a decision or a detail?
Detail.
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 Detail. Sarah picked a few too, so I'm going to use them, Sarah. Is it a
Okay.
decision or a detail on picking a law firm?
Some people get hung up on that,
I think it's a
Me too.
detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
you know? They're like, I don't know who to go with.
But you're
Okay.
still going to do it, so you're still going to go forth and you're going to do some research. Like, is that gonna stop doing the research? Is that gonna stop you from deciding you need to do the thing? You just gotta pick a law firm that aligns with your stuff, like with your views, with your values. And if you're not gonna do that, then like, why are you doing this? Sarah,
The
do
other
we
thing
have a cheat
is,
sheet for them or a checklist that they could go to?
only there were a
If
checklist.
only. Do we?
If only.
Do we? We do. The answer is we do. We do have a checklist. And
Yep.
we do have a checklist. And I actually, even though we're licensed only in the state of Texas, I would stand by these criteria being across the board for any state of what you should look for in a law firm. And the spoiler alert is none of it is to find the cheapest law firm, because value is cost and ROI is cost. So maybe the actual dollar amount may be more to get the plan, but what you get for that far exceeds the actual dollar amount in the value and the time and the heartache that you're saving for your loved ones. Uh, but, I've said many times, we're not $100 bill. Not everybody's going to like us. We are not meant to help everybody, and not everybody is meant to like the way we do things. That's why it's great that there are other qualified law firms that are out there. There's also really terrible ones that are out there. But there are other qualified law firms. I will never forget, and this is particularly uh, timely right now because there is a whole thread going on in one of these lawyer groups about um, lawyers who aren't, air quotes, hungry enough to answer their phone 24/7. And we're not one of those firms.
No.
And we had somebody who said, we liked you, but I went with a firm where the attorney himself gave me his personal cell phone number and said I could text him or call him 24/7. And I said, you made the right decision because we won't do that. Now, Cynthia knows this for sure. When it comes to things like criminal law, even some heated family law issues, there can be a blurring of lines and some differences there. So understand when I'm saying this, I'm talking about an estate planning and probate firm that doesn't take contested matters. There is nothing, I'm sorry, my people, there is nothing that can't be handled between the hours of 9 to 6 Monday through Friday. There have been some exceptions where some exceptions. There's actually been a ton of exceptions where on the weekends we go to hospitals or this and that, and we try to accommodate that. But frankly, the fact of the matter is, from the moment you were born, everybody knew your clock was ticking.
I mean,
Every
yes,
day is a
Sarah.
day closer to this actually happening. So while we have a lot of empathy and we do move a lot of mountains to try and help with those air quote emergency scenarios, when it comes to estate planning, none of it is truly an emergency. You know, this is going to happen. It is. So lack of planning on your part does not an emergency make for our part. Anyway, last one that Sarah submitted. Thank you, Sarah. She is on
Job,
fire
Karen.
today.
Let's go.
Decision or detail? Finding the time. Feel free to elaborate
Detail.
on that, Sarah, since you put
I feel like
that,
it's
if
a
you want
It just
detail,
to.
seems
but yeah, can
like
you elaborate?
it's a common excuse people make. They're like, oh, I don't have
Yeah.
the time. I'm so busy. I got this, I got that. And it's like,
Been on
just
our
do it.
to-do list for years. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, just do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
That's another
And I
piece of
mean,
it that
look,
a lot of
I feel for people. I am a business owner. I am married. I have 4 children that span the age of 2 years old to 20 years old. I have several civic obligations. I sit on a board of directors currently. I have 2 homes that I pay for. There is a lot going on. I manage, I was going to say 12 employees. It's really more 11. Nobody manages Kimberly. Um, all of those things. It is, and I'm not saying that to be like, well, I can figure it out. You can. No, I'm saying like I get you. I 100% am with you. It is one of those things that you have to find the time for. And I think there's a misperception with people that they think it has to take more time than it does. And that is one of the things that really does distinguish other firms, even other great firms, frankly, is we work really hard at making this as seamless and as streamlined and as efficient as possible. Which, if you go and look at our Google reviews, you're going to see review after review after review that says that. The funny part is, every once in a blue moon, we get a complaint, which really, which they think they're making a complaint, but it's really about our efficiency. I never really got to talk to the attorney that much. I met with them once, they did the documents, and then I signed, and it was just like over. And I just felt like I was just moved through this process. And we're like,
So
yeah,
sorry.
you're welcome.
So sorry.
It's done. You have the highest quality of estate plan for your family, and you didn't have to have a bunch of meetings and time taken up to do that. Do you realize that's what you're saying? But the part that, gets us a little bit is you have no idea how much messaging goes out and how much communication we do that opens the door to, do you want to have a conversation? Do you want to set up a meeting? Do you want to be with an attorney, with a case manager? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this? Do you want that? Like, nobody in the firm is like, no, you don't get to talk to us. And one thing that drives me nuts about a lot of businesses and law firms in particular is the lack of responsiveness that they have to people. We're right on it. So I always get tickled a little bit about every once in a blue moon, people are like, I didn't even really talk to the attorney that much. I'm like, you could have if you wanted to, but that's how efficient we are, is we got this whole thing done without you having a bunch of meetings and talking about legalese and stuff that is like way up here. So the point is, um, if you were following along, very, very few. I mean, I think 1 to 2 of the items that we talked about are actually a decision. The rest are just details. So, with lots of things in life, you've got to make the decision and the details will fall into place. If you spin your wheels thinking about, but this, but that, but this, I'll have to do that, I'll have to do this, just stop. It's almost like, it's almost like that concept in Buddhism that what is, it's your resistance to what is that causes your suffering. Just make the decision. And if the decision is to choose a qualified law firm that you find works well with you, those details are going to fall into place very easily because you're going to have a team of people who are experienced, who are knowledgeable, but I would say more importantly, who genuinely care about making sure that they're guiding you through those difficult details so that you can actually get to the point where you have something in place so your family and your loved ones are protected. All right. So is this where we fall off the rails and Sam and Sarah take over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we fell off the rails too much.
Okay. I didn't look at all. Like
Okay.
No, it's fine.
sometimes
Don't worry. We're good this time.
sometimes
She
they
said
share what they're going to
good.
talk about. Sometimes
Whoa.
they don't. They did share, but I didn't look through any of it. So, which sometimes I like. I think last episode didn't work out
I
very
always
well,
look
even
if I
though we
can.
served up a really great
Yeah,
topic
it was
for you.
most
You
straightforward.
just rejected it and sent it back to the kitchen. But
They
at
real
any
fumble.
rate, Sam,
It's a fumble.
You
Sam
can't
and Sarah,
fix
what
it
you got
every
for us?
time, man. Okay, so we also did decisions versus details. And as usual, we have 6 of them. So the first one is to do with cars. So the decision is that it's time to buy a car, whether first car, new one, whichever. Details is what kind of car. My parents have heated steering wheels. So do you want a heated steering wheel, heated seats? Do you want Bluetooth? I guess like age of car, stuff like that.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. So how do you feel about a heated steering wheel?
I don't like if it's gonna cost me extra, what's the point? I don't
Here, but okay. So I've done a fair amount of car shopping. I'm gonna go back to the heated steering wheel in a second. But do
mhm,
you all know what auto hold is?
mm-mm.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're at a stoplight or a stop sign, more like a stoplight, or in stop and go. And there's a lot of newer cars, and I mean, I'm talking about like last even 10 years, have this technology where it stops the engine from just idling to help preserve
Mhm.
gas
Oh,
and emit less. But there's this other feature called auto hold, where basically you can still stay in drive, but you can take your foot off the brake to help save on the
Oh,
brake. So when we got the Telluride about 4 or 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, um, it had this feature. And when it was described to me, like, oh, you don't have to keep your foot on the brake when you're at a stoplight. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing. Like, why would I care about that? It is awesome. I absolutely love it. It is a great feature. And so heated steering wheel felt the same way. A couple cars ago, I think it was our Buick Enclave, it came with that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And for the 5 days where it's unbearably cold in Texas, like it's life changing. What I think they need to do, which they've probably done, just none of the bougie cars I've got. Well, it's not that I get bougie cars. I always get a car that has that's fully loaded.
mhm.
You get the bougie
Like
option.
I get the bougie, like the highest end, highest end. But it's not like I get like a high end car. I just get the base model that has, or I get a regular one that has all the bells and whistles. So I would think this technology exists for to have a cooling steering wheel, and
Yes.
that in Texas
ooh,
That'd be great. Thank
would be
you.
life
Yeah.
changing.
I would.
So just wanted to offer that up. Next,
Okay. Next decision is getting a pet with your loved one. That's definitely not just a roommate. Now, the details, they don't matter because you may go in thinking, I'm not going to get a big dog. I only want a small dog. But then you lock eyes with a big dog and you leave with a big dog. So don't worry about the details. They don't matter.
Speaking from personal experience.
I definitely think not thinking about the details is a great way to buy a pet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whatever your
Otherwise,
heart desires.
there'd be so many more homeless pets out there if you thought through all the details.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
what if this cat will need a splenectomy when they're 14 years old? Like, just don't think about it. Just
Yeah.
take the cat off the street, will ya?
The next one for decisions versus details, Sarah and Sam edition, is a house. Yay, house time. Woo. Why I did that.
Hope
Um,
soon.
details. What kind of house? What kind of neighborhood? Is it the right time regarding the economy? Do you like the city you're in?
No.
Is it far enough away from the family members that will just stop by unannounced and not leave for hours? Most important detail, I think.
Also, lack of
Those are good
HOA.
details.
Luke
Yeah,
will
For
never
Ooh.
live in
sure.
a place with an
Yeah.
HOA.
aren't those good? Wouldn't they be kind of hard to find?
Not necessarily.
No, we don't have an HOA here, and I didn't have one at our other house.
Oh, interesting. Do you know apartments can have HOAs? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What?
I'm not surprised.
we
That's
purposely
crazy.
look for things without them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hmm. All right. Next one.
Uh huh.
Decision to get married. Details. Downloading Hinge and or other dating app to find the one. Not sponsored.
But we would accept sponsorships,
We
We would
would
accept.
accept sponsorship. They have to have
especially
money.
from dating apps. Hey,
Ooh.
dating apps, I hot tip. you need to put on there as a compatibility thing how they feel about organ donation.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Is that a hot topic?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating to me the number of couples that no matter what their decision is, whether it's yes or no, or yes, but only for medical uses, or yes, they can, whatever they can use it for, 99% of the time, the couple completely agrees on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. I never thought
Interesting.
about that they all.
Luke and I are the
same.
1%. We don't agree, but it's fine.
What do you guys not agree on?
One of us is yes, the other one's no.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, I thought like if it was like different things.
No.
Well, the next one, decision versus details, is a party decision. You told your friend that you will be at the party. The details. Picking out your excuse 10 minutes before you leave on why you will in fact not be at the
Why
party.
didn't you let Sarah do this? Because I feel like this is like Sarah's.
Well,
like,
she's
existence.
never canceled on us. She just doesn't say yes ever.
Well, she says yes,
She-
but there has been a couple times that, like, a week in advance, she's like, nah. But
She
hold
doesn't
up.
Usually she has a
respond.
good excuse though.
Hold
like
up.
her
No. Hold up.
Like passing out.
My favorite thing is how Sarah, you're like, hey, do you want to do this thing, for friendship purposes and bonding and like maybe spilling some tea situation? And Sarah's like, no, I have to paint something earlier that day, so I don't know how tired I'll be. And we're like, what is it? She's like, oh, it's just like a TV wall mount. It's like, I'm sorry, I
It
don't
wasn't
know
a
how
wall
big
mount.
it is. I don't know how
Was it
big
like
this
a
TV wall mount
unit?
is. That
I don't know
it
why you think it's a
will.
wall mount. It wasn't. It
Isn't it like a
It wasn't
table?
even a wall mount.
No, it was like a table, right?
was a
For your
yeah,
TV.
it was like a big TV stand. Anyways,
What,
I ended
what
up
I
being
want
too
to
busy
know,
anyways, and I didn't
But
paint that
still.
day.
Well, you didn't
what
paint
I
that
want
day,
to
but
know is
like, come on.
why did you have to fake medical problems
Yeah.
to
Oh,
get
she.
out of the
No, I saw her
social?
at work. She was not fake.
Well,
I wish I could have not felt that, but
it's fine. We had fun without you. We had
Rip.
pizza,
That hot honey pizza was
True.
great. That's smack.
You're welcome.
and then Adley made up games and put us into
Mhm.
teams, and she told
Yeah,
us which
that
ones
was
us were
so
all
random.
right.
I don't I don't know
She
where
said
she
who
came
can
up
come
with
to
that.
her birthday party versus who can't come to her birthday party. It was a whole thing.
wow.
I
Wow.
did win for about 5 seconds before Jordan appeared because I
Yeah,
had a
no.
really long word.
Once Jordan got
Not that
there,
that
all bets were
mattered,
off.
yeah.
Jordan is the only one allowed at the kid birthday party or the family birthday party.
Yeah.
Jordan is the closest to Adley's size,
Yes,
so she's always
absolutely.
gonna favor Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Oh, all right. Next.
And last one.
Last one
What?
is
Oh, no.
swag. Me and Sam. The decision is us deciding the topic we're doing the list for, and the details is us sitting in my office for 20 minutes, painstakingly trying to come up with only 6 things and trying to be funny and thinking we are funny, then finding out we are in fact not as funny as we thought we were, and missed the prompt entirely when we thought we did a really good job.
That was
Oh,
one
I'm
time.
Rip. Nice.
No, they've missed the prompt several times.
Yeah, you tell us
Several times we've
immediately
missed
when we have not.
They've completely missed it.
The most recent time
Last week.
Last week.
is the worst. Yeah.
I think that's the thing. You do levels of missing the prompt, so we're
Yeah.
like, fine, you'll get a pass. But last week was particularly bad.
Rip.
Listen, we're gonna have off weeks. We tried.
Well, I'm just gonna say no. You don't get off weeks. Mistakes are proof that you're trash.
Cool.
Not wrong.
The problem, it's not that what you came up with wasn't mildly abusing. It's just how good it's really how good the topic is versus how
Mhm.
well you do. And
Right, fair.
that distinction is what threw it off, is that it was a really great topic and you were meh.
Yeah.
On that note, I think that's a good wrap up on decisions versus details. Remember, make the decision and the details will fall into place. Thanks for listening. And just to cover all our bases about what you just heard, I'm sorry and you're welcome. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And tell your friends about us. We do webinars and live events. The best way to stay up to date is to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Links are in the show notes. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, maybe you have a question you'd like us to answer, or maybe you just want to say hi, hit the link in the show notes or go to burch-law.com/podcast and fill out the contact form.
Much better.
Yeah, I thought that had a lot of energy.